Hola y bienvenido de Cuba. Estamos en Havana ahora and bienvenido a MichMusic Now. I'm Michele Weir. This is MichMusic Now. So happy to be here talking with you from Havana. And also excited to talk to you about some questions and answers that people have written into me over the last few months. They have come in from different sources, and there's a little something for everybody. If you're a scat singer, there's a couple of questions and points of interest for you. If you are a piano player, there's some things for you. If you're a theory geek or an arranger, there's some interesting questions for you and answers. So let's just dive in and get started. This one came to me from my website, and she writes, I am mostly playing standards from the 1900s to the 1960s on piano, all by heart. Good for you. That's awesome to hear. The Jazz Piano Handbook, which is my book, already is a great instruction and practice book, yet there are several other faculties I would like to improve upon. She has now several questions. First, how to get smoothly from one song to another, usually in another key. Great question. You're playing a solo piano gig, you're going to have to play a lot of tunes. How do you transition to different tunes in different keys? Well, of course, you can always get to new keys via the simple 5/7 chord of the key you're going to. And then you can elaborate on that about 100 different ways, starting with having it become a 2/5 progression, or you can make it a 1/6-2/5 progression, or any variation therein. For example, you could use a tritone substitution. The 1 chord, flat 3 dominant 7, 2 minor 7 or 2 dominant 7, flat 2 dominant 7, back to 1. And I think what piano players do often is, when they get to the end of their song, they doodle and noodle. And that might be on some sort of simple progression like 1 chord to the 4 chord, 1 chord to the 4 chord. Then they just side slip up to the next key in preparation for the next tune. Next question from the same person. How to improvise an introduction to a song? Well, because of this question, I actually already created a MichMusic Now video called How to Create a Rubato Piano Intro. So please check that. That has all the basic information you need about how to create a basic intro. And then one more question from this person. Methods to reharmonize or otherwise alter a song to make the repetition more interesting. Well, of course, altering the melody, altering the rhythms, altering the phrasing. There are simple things like starting at rubato, maybe doing a whole rubato chorus, then going into a tempo like a bossa or swing. There could be even that you change meter. You do the first chorus in a slow 4/4, then you go into a jazz waltz, something like that. And then in terms of reharmonization, which is, sprucing up the chord progressions, that's a whole world unto its own. We can't cover too much on that, but we can give you some basics. First of all, think about it this way. There's static harmony. That is harmony that is not progressing. For example, a couple of bars of C major 7. What are you going to do? You're on a ballad, 2 bars of C major 7. You want to do something with it. Well, you can basically decorate it. And here's how you can do that. You can walk up diatonically, C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, D minor 7, C. You can do a turnaround, C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7. You could do a vamp type progression, C major 7, D flat major 7, C major 7, D flat major 7. That is all what I call decorating static harmony. Then there's harmony that is progressing. This would be where you might throw in a tritone substitution. Say, again, you're doing 1/6-2/5. You can go C major 7, and then instead of an A dominant 7 or an A minor 7, you can use its tritone substitution, which means it's an augmented fourth away from the chord A. And that would be an E flat chord, and you'd make it a dominant 7. So again, I'll do more sessions later on this kind of information, but that ought to get you started. One more thing about harmony you can do is to think of making the harmony more interesting by being interested in the chord you're going to, and creating something interesting as an approach chord. So let's say we're going to a G7 chord. You can approach that chord by the chord a half step above, A flat 7. You can also approach it by the chord below, F sharp dominant 7. Or you could do a double chromatic leading to that chord. A7, A flat 7, G dominant 7. Or F dominant 7, F sharp 7, G dominant 7. Okay, this next question comes to us from someone on YouTube. She is referring to my Jazz Singer's Handbook, and she says, regarding the song After You've Gone from chapter 1, it begins in the key of B flat, but it ends in the key of F major. The overall key is F major. My question is, does the song really begin in the key of B flat major, or is it just a chord B flat major? The key signature is that of F major, and none of the E's in the melody are flatted, so it looks like the key of F. And she's asking me, is it the key of F or is it the key of B flat? And my answer is this. Tons of songs start on a chord that is not the chord of the final key center. Many of them, even in this particular case where we're starting basically on the 4 chord of the key, right? Key of F, and a B flat is the 4 chord in the key of F. Many songs do that. For example, Almost Like Being in Love, Just Friends, there's a ton of them. Jazz standard songs tend to migrate through temporary key centers. Autumn Leaves has about 3 temporary key centers. Many songs have got 4, 5, or even more temporary key centers. Happens a lot, but don't expect the actual key signature to change every time. So the rule is, if it sounds like it's in that key, even for a bar, and you're analyzing it and you're trying to make the decision, is that in that key temporarily or not? The answer is yes. So for me, gracias. For me, in the song After You've Gone, you start on that B flat major 7 chord and it sounds like B flat for that moment. So I would say, yeah, temporarily we're in the key of B flat, but right away it works its way back to F. So then I would analyze it like, okay, now we're back in F, etc. And here's a side note tip. The best way to know what key you're actually in the song is not the first chord of the song. It's the last chord of the song. So always look to the last chord of the song, and you'll find that 99.999% of the time, it will match the key signature. Okay, here's a question from the MichMusic Network Facebook group. This is a really interesting one. This is a scat singing type question, and it's kind of deep, and we actually got into some good discussion about it on the MichMusic Network page. She says, "Dear singers and Michele, I'm trying to figure out why there's a disconnect with me learning licks and getting them in songs. I practice licks, orally transcribe solos, work with Scatability and Darman Meter's books, but I don't feel that the licks I learn ever make it into my music. I can sing along with nearly any well-known work, and yet those fierce lines never make it into my music." It's an interesting question, right? And, I am no authority on neuroscience, but I have some thoughts about how we learn things. In particular, porque aprendo español ahora, estudio español hace 3 meses. So I think about learning improvisation in the same way we learn language. It has to become fully internalized, fully automated to be useful to us, to have a free, spontaneous communication in that language. And I think it's true for scatting also. Some of us tend to be perfectionists. Raise your hand if you're a perfectionist, because I am. And I've found a similar kind of problem sometimes where I have a challenge letting go of the thinking part of the process because I want it to be great. I want it to be perfect. And I happen to know the person that wrote this, and she's so smart and so talented, and she's a professional singer and a professional music teacher. So why is it that her practice that she does isn't getting into her singing. You know, it would be the same reason perhaps that she practiced dance steps, but she can't just do the dance freely, overthinking it. If you're going to dance, it's going to come at a certain speed, right? And you need to react and respond to what's happening with your dance partner and so on. So it's beyond the speed of thinking. We have to internalize these things so deeply that it's faster than the speed of thinking. And we need to do the same for scat singing. Basically, we need to let go of our thinking and allow our, whatever that soulful, intuitive self is inside us. We need to let that part of us take over. And beyond that, for those of you who are neuroscientists out there, if you have some thoughts on this, please write in and share your 2 cents about it. I would appreciate that. Okay, here's another question that came through my website. I want to be able to play piano to accompany myself and to know what to do every day to finally be able to move through the chords on the piano musically. So I do plan to record a session, a MichMusic Now session on accompanying and accompanying yourself. But here's a few tips to get you started. First of all, if you don't have good, solid, workable chord voicings already under your fingers to play at the piano, you want to start with that, because it ain't going to sound good unless your piano voicings sound good also. So I find sometimes students are hit and miss. They have some good voicings and then they're faulty on some voicings. So I recommend first you make sure you've got good basic voicings. Watch for MichMusic Now sessions on this, because I will be giving more and more information on jazz piano and also music habit classes and courses coming soon. So I recommend first that you sing and play with stressed beats that coincide. For example, playing a chord while I sing, here's my song, whenever I stress, a word in the song, I'm playing a chord that matches. Okay? That's number one. Get comfortable doing the whole song like that. Second thing to do, I'm playing a chord, then I'm singing my song. Then I play another chord, then I sing a little bit more. Play another chord, then I sing a little bit more. Then you mix and match them. Play a chord, then I sing a little more, then they coincide together. Play a chord, then I sing a little bit more, then they coincide together. After that, you can already accompany yourself, basically, right? Then it's just a matter of adding more interest and expanding on what you already have. You want to add passing notes and use more textures in your piano playing with broken chords, passing notes, etc. Some of playing jazz piano is simply connecting the dots with interesting melodic passing notes. Other interest in jazz piano is playing, distinct, simple melodies you make up when the voice is passive. So I'm singing something, I've finished singing something. Piano plays a passing melody that you make up in the top notes of your chord voicings. Then they coincide again, then you make more passing notes, etc. Last question. This comes to us from the MichMusic Network group on Facebook. I would like to ask you about jazz vocal voicings. How do you arrange for voices in jazz vocals? Okay, that's a big topic. We don't have time to cover the whole thing, of course, right now. However, I can tell you one approach that you can look up and find online probably, and certainly in books, particularly big band arranging books. The style is called four-way close, and it's simply it's a systematic way of creating good, solid chord voicings. So you start with the melody note, the given melody note of the melody, and you harmonize three other notes under it in close position. So let's say we have a C major 7 chord, and there's the note G on top. Well, that's the 5th, so the next chord tone down is going to be E, because that's the 3rd. The next one down is going to be C, because that's the root. And the last one down will be B, because that's the 7th. There you go. That's called a 4-way close voicing. Then there's a world of things we do to expand on it, decorate it, make it more interesting. For example, that root, the C note, can become the 9th, which is like the 2nd note of the key, and it's a color note. So we do a lot of substitutions of chord tones for different notes in the chord, etc. And, I'll just leave it at that for now. Please watch for a music habit class or course on this topic. If you want more information on the MichMusic Now free, YouTube sessions, please check that. Also, write to me. Tell me what you'd like to know more about. Ask further questions, and we'll do another question and answer session. Thank you. I want to tell you we're having such a fun time in Cuba. I have the feeling behind me you've seen a lot of beautiful and interesting people and things going on. So I hope that has been fun for you. And wishing you the best, as always. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.